We have some big breaking news coming in. After United Kingdom remains defiant on quarantine norms, India has now decided to impose reciprocatory measures on United Kingdom nationals arriving into India from the UK. Now, UK nationals will have to face 10-day quarantine period right on arrival into India. New regulations will come into effect from the 4th of October and will be applicable to all UK nationals arriving from the United Kingdom. Remember, the government has been trying to push for United Kingdom to ease quarantine rules for Indians who have been fully vaccinated. But yet, UK doesn't seem to budge, and considering UK insists on a quarantine period for Indians coming into the United Kingdom, here India now reciprocates. After UK remains defiant, India has now decided to impose reciprocatory measures on UK nationals arriving into India. UK nationals will now have to face 10-day quarantine period on arrival into India. This regulation will come into effect on the 4th of October. Let me cut across to Milan joining us for more on that. Milan, after much request here, United Kingdom has refused to budge. India now has decided to impose reciprocatory measures. Even UK nationals arriving into India now, even if they are fully vaccinated, will have to go through mandatory 10-day quarantine period.
Exactly, because India had told the UK authorities that we can also invoke the reciprocity principle here for the UK nationals traveling to the country. So according to that now, they'll have to go through a mandatory 10-day quarantine. They'll also have to undertake an RT-PCR test 72 hours before boarding the flight. They will also need to be tested for COVID in India on the second day of their quarantine. And another RT-PCR test will be need to done exactly 8 days after the test is being done. So all the rules and regulations that the UK is following for Indian nationals, because India is still part of the amber list of countries, are being followed in India as well. And these measures will be put forward and put across by the Ministry of Health as well as the External Affairs Ministry together, so that they are mandated. And whoever is arriving from UK to India will need to follow the same quarantine and testing measures that the UK is subjecting Indian nationals to.
Milan, stay with us. I'm going to quickly cut across to Geeta Mohan joining us on the phone line for more on that. Geeta, we do know that Indians who land into the United Kingdom will have to go through mandatory quarantine period for 10 days, despite them being fully vaccinated. Is this the same rule that applies to all other nationalities, or only Indians have to go through mandatory quarantine? And if you can take us through India's steps now to reciprocate.
Well, Nabila, the rules are very clear for the United Kingdom, which is the ones who are vaccinated under the vaccines that are recognized by the United Kingdom will not have to go through quarantine measures, but those who are not will have to. The problem over here is that Covishield is the vaccine that is manufactured in India, but the parent company is from the United Kingdom. And despite that, they have not recognized, absolutely discriminatory, are not recognizing those who are being administered vaccines in India. They're okay with the same vaccine being administered elsewhere in various other countries that India has provided the vaccine to. But those who are being administered in India are not really being given the same kind of treatment that others are getting. And that's why India is calling it discriminatory. While the UK High Commissioner in India and the United Kingdom government have said that they are in discussion because it has to do with the COVID app, and they're talking to how the app really functions and the people who are vaccinated, that does not solve the problem. The problem over here is that UK is discriminatory and India gave them enough time. Now, London will have to pay by their own citizens suffering when they come to India, and the reciprocity has kicked in. They will kick in from October 4th. So that's the window now that India is giving, that New Delhi is giving to London to mend their way. If not, the same kind of rules will apply, pre-departure COVID RT-PCRs, and quarantine, that is 10-day mandatory quarantine on arrival.
Well, you did mention it is ironic because AstraZeneca's Covishield literally uses the same formula. It is the same formula that's used in the United Kingdom as well, Oxford's AstraZeneca. What exactly is the reason does the United Kingdom give for not recognizing the Covishield version made in India?
Well, no specific reasons. Like I said, it has to do with how it is being administered in India, whether if the app is showing the right numbers. And so they're working between the app company, the COVID app here, and the organization and the authorities in the United Kingdom. But that does not take away from the fact that they are not considering India's version and India's stand. India made it very clear that those who have been vaccinated get an ID with a code. It is not handwritten as is the case in the United Kingdom. There is a code to a unique code, and the certificate has that code to every individual who has been vaccinated in India. And therefore, India is considering it absolutely discriminatory. And no matter what the United Kingdom says of the app, of the rules, of how many have been vaccinated or not, they are in violation of many diplomatic niceties and norms. And therefore, they need to really set the record straight when it comes to the quarantining process and the mandatory quarantine that Indian citizens will have to be put to.
Well, here India, of course, has gone a step forward, gone digital when it comes to issuing certification for vaccine, much far ahead in compared to the United Kingdom, which gives out a handwritten certificate. For India now, and the kind of vaccination pace that we've achieved, it's quite shocking that a country like the United Kingdom, who has a huge Indian population, would not allow or accept Indians coming in without quarantine period of 10 days. You have S. Jaishankar, who's also interacted with his counterpart in the United Kingdom. What's the exact reason for them not to budge, despite all the reasons or literally all queries being answered by the Indian High Commission as well as the Foreign Affairs Ministry? Here you have the United Kingdom refusing to budge. Let me cut across to Gaurav Sawant as well, joining us for more on that. Gaurav, over to you. Here is India now taking reciprocatory measures, slapping a quarantine period for all those coming in to India from the United Kingdom, a mandatory quarantine period, even if they are fully vaccinated. This is a tit for tat. Just like what the UK has done for India, India now reciprocates because they refuse to budge.
Well, India is simply sending out the message that vaccine racism is no longer acceptable. The fact that Indian vaccines and certification system is second to none, in fact superior to many across the world, is a fact that the United Kingdom has to come to terms with, which they haven't. And India tried to explain this point very logically, very simply, saying that there is a system where every vaccine can be verified in terms of the system, the COVID portal, the codification that is done. All of that is very simple. And the United Kingdom said, yes, they're trying to understand. They understand the vaccine is acceptable, AstraZeneca. And what was ironical, it's the same vaccine, except that it's manufactured either here or elsewhere in the world. So how can the same vaccine manufactured here, administered here, not be acceptable? And despite vaccination, 10 days quarantine, since no satisfactory response came up to a certain point, reciprocatory measures have been put in place for them to understand what this order would then ultimately mean for both countries, and an effort will be made subsequently to find an amicable resolution or a solution to this problem.
Well, Gaurav, it doesn't appear like a solution will come about anytime soon, because despite the Foreign Affairs Ministry reaching out to his UK counterpart, it doesn't seem like they want to budge, considering they believe that India's certification is not up to mark. That's what they believe. But ironically, UK gives out certification handwritten. India has gone a step ahead, giving out digital certificates, uniquely coded. And at a time when India is receiving worldwide praise for its vaccination drive and the kind of numbers that we've achieved in a short span of time, here's the United Kingdom casting aspersions over it.
So this is exactly what India is, sending message across to the United Kingdom. See the process. It's completely transparent. See the vaccine, the manner in which it's manufactured in India. India is anyway seen as the vaccination center for the world. We make vaccines not just for India, but also for export to the world. world-class quality control, all of that as far as the vaccine is concerned. And it is AstraZeneca, it is Covishield. We're not even talking about Covaxin just as yet. We're talking about Covishield. And again, the British should have no problems with AstraZeneca. Point one. Point two, with the certification process, again, this is a world-renowned, respected portal that is actually being viewed by other countries. In fact, some other countries, according to officials in the government, they want to see whether COVID portal can also be implemented in those countries. Again, you and I have both been through the process, so we've seen, there is an Aadhaar card. You register at the COVID portal. When you get your first dose, it's duly registered. You get your second dose, again, it's duly registered. So there is a process. And this is the process that India tried to explain repeatedly to the United Kingdom and at multiple levels, not just at the level of diplomats, but also at the level of the External Affairs Minister. Now it remains to be seen how quickly does this message get across.
Well, thank you very much, Gaurav, for joining us with those details. But here, India now not taking this lying down. Reciprocatory measures that India has now also adopted. A 10-day quarantine period will be slapped on any UK national coming into India. Mandatory 10-day quarantine, even if they are fully vaccinated. And this rule will be applicable from the 4th of October.